What's the true cost to starting an Amazon business? It's a hard answer to come by. Some people will say 500, some people will say 10,000, and there's everything in between. Now, when I started, I thought I had it figured out. I had it mapped out, and I started with a couple $1,000s. But within a few months, I was $50,000 in debt because of things that I didn't know.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
So in this breakdown, I'm gonna give you 4 things that you need to consider. There's the things that are required, there's the things that are optional, there's the things that are recommended, and then there's the things that are hidden.
I'm in the jungle. I'm in the Amazon. I'm in the jungle. I'm in the Amazon.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. My name is JT Franco. I'm the no bullshit Amazon seller. So if you want to learn about Amazon FBA from someone that actually sells on Amazon, then you've come to the right place. So make sure to subscribe to become an empire builder. And if you're already an empire builder, welcome back. Hopefully your empire is going strong. So let's dive right into this, all right? So we're gonna start with the things that are required to start your Amazon FBA business. So there's a lot of price ranges. So like a lot of these things aren't, solid all the time set prices. There's gonna be a lot of variation. So what I'm gonna do kind of the cheap end, the cheapest you can go, and then I'm gonna do the most expensive that you can go, and then we're gonna kind of at the very end, I'm gonna do my recommended, and then I'm gonna show you what is more optional, and then of course I'm gonna tell you the 2 most expensive things that you need to consider when thinking about starting this business opportunity, okay? And that's at the end. Don't skip to that one though, because if you don't watch everything first, it won't really make sense. So the first thing that you're gonna need is your Amazon seller account, right? So you can actually do this first for free, because you can start with your individual seller account, but then later you're gonna need to upgrade to the pro seller account. Now, I usually just recommend, if you're really serious about getting into Amazon, just go ahead and get the pro seller account right away. It's $40, right? So $40 a month for that. But if you don't wanna do that, you wanna get the free account first, you are gonna need to upgrade by the time you're ready to order your products, okay? So you can start for free for a bit, dabble around, get used to it, look through Seller Central. Seller Central is the back end, like where your seller hub for where you're gonna control your inventory, you're gonna see your sales, you're gonna do your pay-per-click ads and everything like that. Get used to that and then upgrade when you're ready. So the next thing that's absolutely required is your tools. So once you got your seller account, that's your base, your home base, and now you need your tools, which is kind of be like your armory if you're thinking about going to war, right? So your tools are the things that are gonna help you make this process easier. So things like finding your products, building your listings, searching for keywords, emailing customers. There's a lot of different tools which are software, right? Things that you purchase online, software to help you run your business more efficiently. Now, when you're starting, the only thing you actually are required to have that you need is something that's gonna help you find products, right? So you're looking to sell products on Amazon. What are you gonna sell? And that's where Viral Launch comes in. So Viral Launch is a tool that helps you find your products so that you know exactly the metrics, the numbers, so you can base your decision off of the facts, right? The hard facts of these products and these markets. You don't want to just try to sell a product on Amazon that just at the top of your head, because you're just guessing, right? You're throwing a dart into a pool of millions of products and hoping that you get the right thing, whereas Viral Launch is going to be more like shooting a magnet out there and reeling the good options. Okay, so Viral Launch, that's going to cost you anywhere from $50 to $80. And the reason for that is because there's 4 different versions. There's the light version and the pro version. Now, I typically just stay within, I have the pro version myself, so I don't really go much higher than that. It's gonna be either $59 or $100, something like that, $99. But if you use my Viral Launch code, my discount code in the description, it becomes $50 or $85 instead of $59 or $100, okay? 15% off for life. Now, the thing about that is a monthly cost, but if you find your product, you can go ahead and cancel that and then rejoin later on, right? So a quick little hack to save you some money there, so you don't have to pay for it for months when you're not actually using the software, okay? So the next thing that is absolutely required, now we're talking about actually getting your business going, is gonna be your logo, okay? So you're gonna need to have a logo for your brand on Amazon. So this is something that I wouldn't skimp out on, because again, this is kind of building your brand identity, presenting yourself as a premium brand. If you have a logo that just looks like it was sketched up on Microsoft Paint, then people are gonna be less likely to trust your brand, right? So spend some time, spend some effort, and put some brain power into making something that actually is nice and that makes sense. It's not too cluttered, it's clean, and it looks good, and it just looks good on your listing, on your product. Okay, so the way you can do this, if you're not a designer yourself, if you are a designer, awesome, go for it. But the way you can do this cheap is to go through a website called Fiverr. Now, Fiverr is where you can find a lot of freelancers that can do designs for you. This is where I got my first logo done. But the thing about Fiverr is that with everything, you kind of get what you pay for, right? So it's gonna be like 25 to 50 bucks. I'll put $50 for this to get a logo done, but the quality is not always there, right? The quality isn't always the best. So what I actually recommend is to go to a site called Outlinematic, okay? Now Outlinematic, and I'm gonna tell you why I recommend this, because you get a 2-in-1. So with Outlinematic, and we'll cover this later when we talk about box design, so the packaging of your product, but Outlinematic is can do your logo for you and your box for you, okay? So if you wanna just get the logo from Outlinematic, it's 150 bucks, but I recommend if you're gonna get the logo from Outlinematic, you might as well get the full package, which is $297, and it's gonna get you the box design as well. Okay, so you get the box design, you get the logo design for $300, and that's kind of the higher end, but then you get a 2-in-1 there, as opposed to getting a cheaper logo off of Fiverr. Okay, so next thing you're gonna need is your samples. Okay, so samples is definitely something that I 100% do recommend. You can skip out and not get samples for your product, but I've been burned multiple times by not getting samples, 3 times to be exact, where I didn't get a sample and the product wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, it wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be, the quality wasn't there, or things were just totally wrong from what I assumed that the seller was gonna, or the manufacturer was gonna send. So I always now get samples. I always recommend to get samples. This is the only way you can really get a feel, get a touch, and really play around with your product before you start selling it to hundreds, thousands of people. It's always good to get so that you can actually see it first. So a sample, again, it's gonna range, but typically it's gonna be like 50 bucks to get a sample sent to you, and that's a single product. And the reason I know that probably sounds expensive is because you're shipping it from China, right? So really you're paying for the shipping. Now the nice thing about samples is that once you get a sample ordered, you can get it refunded to you from the supplier once you place the full order. So he'll send you a sample for the stapler, you get the stapler, you pay 50 bucks for it. Like, okay, I'm ready to place the full order of 300 units for this stapler, and then they'll deduct that $50 cost from your final order. Okay, so samples, and I typically get around 3 samples at least from different manufacturers to see which one is actually best. So 50 bucks times 3, you're looking at about $150 for your samples. All right, so the next thing on the list is your actual inventory. So now we're talking about your products. So now you got your tools, you got everything set up, you got your samples, you're ready to order products. Now this is the one that's gonna vary the most, because it's gonna depend on the product. Which product did you select? So every other product is gonna cost a different amount, whatever variation, whatever kind of, if you make any changes to that product, that's gonna make a change to it. And there's just so many variables, and it also depends on how many units you order. So I'm just gonna break it down to say between $2 and $6, you're ordering 300 units, you're looking at between $600 to $1,800 for your first order of products, okay? So that is, again, that's just a range, and 300 units is a good kind of first order to kind of test the waters. Now again, I wouldn't randomly just, order 300 for this because you think 300 is a good number. There's a lot of ways to kind of calculate how much you should actually order, how much you should expect to sell, but this is not the video for that. If you wanna find it out, click this video right over here. That's a complete Amazon FBA A to Z guide. It's gonna take you through the entire process, and it's gonna show you a little bit more about inventory forecasting, how much to order. But just for the sake of this video, we'll say you're ordering 300 units, okay? So the next thing you wanna consider is your UPC codes, your barcodes. So the barcode is something that's gonna go onto your product, onto your actual units for Amazon to organize them. So what you're gonna need to do is buy a UPC code, and then you're gonna put that into Amazon when you create your listing, and they're gonna give you an FNSKU. And then that FNSKU, you're gonna send it to your supplier, and then they're gonna put it onto your items, okay? So the thing about UPC code, it's gonna range a lot. So it's gonna be between $5 to $250 for a UPC code. Now let me explain why. I know that sounds a little bit crazy. So basically, there is something called GS1. Now GS1 is the standard for UPC codes, so or barcodes, okay? So if you are to go and buy from GS1, your company is going to be assigned to that barcode, okay? And that is an official barcode. Okay, and then whenever you go to Walmart or Target, whatever, those are GS1 barcodes, okay? So what happens is these GS1 barcodes are like 250 bucks for a single one, right? But if a company comes in, someone comes in and buys, a massive order of 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 of these barcodes, they can get it much cheaper, and then they can resell them. So that is where the $5 one comes in, is when you can actually buy a resold version of these GS1 barcodes. Now they are legit GS1, but they're not assigned to your company, they're assigned to the company that bought them originally, right? Now, this was never a problem before, but recently Amazon changed their rules so that they require sellers to have GS1 barcodes that are assigned actually to them. Now, here's the thing. Can you get away with buying a resold one? You technically, yes. Now, it's kind of a gray area, so you're gonna kind of play it on your own risk. if you don't get a GS1 barcode, Amazon can take your listing down. They can, say you can't sell this product because you haven't followed the rules. Now, here's the thing. 95% of sellers on Amazon right now are using resold GS1 barcodes. So is Amazon actually going to go ahead and take down 95% of the products because of this recent rule change? Probably not. But again, you're teeter-tottering on this line of, what are you willing to risk? And are you willing to just pay the $250 or whatever it is to get an official barcode? That's kind of up to you. But for myself personally, majority of my products are still the resold ones, okay? So that's that. The next thing you're gonna need to consider is your shipping. So now you ordered your inventory, you sent the barcodes in, now it's ready, it's done, it's manufactured. Now how much is it gonna cost to ship? So it's gonna vary, right? Whether you go by sea, whether you go by air. But if you're only ordering 300 units, I always suggest your first order, just go by air, okay? It's much faster. You're talking the difference between 30 to like 50, 60 days to 3 to like 7 days for air, right? So go by air just because time is money. You get it in there faster. You get to test it. Maybe it's gonna be more expensive and it's gonna really eat your margins. But at least you got in there. You got to be able to test the market. You proved your theory that this product is selling well. Now you can go ahead and order again, and then maybe order a bigger order by sea next. Because if you're only ordering 300, 400 units, it's really not worth it. Sea makes more sense when you're looking at 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 units. Okay, so by air for your first order. 300 units. It can be anywhere between $300 to like $700. Okay, so I'm gonna put that range on there, and that's it. All right, so those are all the things that are actually 100% required mandatory costs. Okay, so let's run through it again really quickly. You got your seller account, which is $40. You got your tools, which is gonna be $50 to $85. Then you're getting your samples, that's $150. You got your logo, $50 to $297. Your inventory is between $600 to $1,800. UPC code is $5 to $250. Then your shipping is $300 to $700. All right, with that, you're looking at between $1,195 to $3,322. Okay, so those are kind of the lowest and the highest. So let's just put those together and average that out to about $2,258. So you got the two, I put the two costs together and cut that in half, and then that's the average of $2,258. Okay, so those are the required costs. So now what we're gonna talk about are the optional costs, the things that aren't 100% necessary, but it's there. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is an inspection. So getting an inspection is when you get your products ordered, they're made and they're manufactured, and now you can send in a company to go and inspect those products and make sure they are to your specifications, what you asked the manufacturer to create. There's no damaged units, and everything's done well and properly. Okay, they can even brake test the product and everything like that. So an inspection from the company I recommend is about $300. So this company is called Quima, Q-I-M-A. That's what I've been using for years. They used to be called like China Inspection, but it's $300. They'll go in there, they'll give you a full report of everything, and they'll give you a detailed breakdown of your product, so once it sends out, then everything is done and everything is there. There's no missing pieces, and that's happened before where there's a product with lots of pieces and then something's missing in the boxes, and then you're getting returns, you're getting complaints from customers. So inspections are great, but again, it's optional for you. You don't have to do it, but it depends, again, between the risk reward. But I would say if you're low, if you're tight on a budget, just skip the inspection for the first part. Ask your supplier to send you pictures, make sure everything's there, kind of do it over the resources that you have. You don't have to really go that deep, but if you want to make sure you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's on everything, go for it. Okay, the next thing is product photography. Now, professionally done product photography is very, very important. It is literally like the number one thing that's gonna sell your product. It comes down to what's your title, what's your pictures look like, okay? Because this is the key of your listing. Like when people are looking at your product, they're considering the photos more than anything else. So having great photos done is key. So this is gonna be expensive, right? It's about $550 to get pro product photography done from Viral Launch. Again, Viral Launch does a great job. They are Amazon sellers, built by Amazon sellers for Amazon sellers, so they know what works well on Amazon, what converts well, what's within Amazon's rules. But again, if you want to do it yourself, you can do that. Remember, you got your samples, so you can go ahead and do this product photography yourself. Just make sure you're following the rules, or go to a local photographer, right? Go to someone off Craigslist or whatever it is that can do this for you, and just give them the specifications for that, and you can probably save a little bit of money. But if you want to go with Viral Launch, it's $550. Okay. Next thing is box design. So box design, we talked about a little bit earlier. If you went the Fiverr route and you didn't get Outlinematic, you're probably looking at, again, if you go back to Fiverr, $50 for your box design. But again, you get what you pay for. So if you're gonna get if you decided you're going to spend $50 for a logo, $50 for a box, that's $100. Done cheaply, you might as well spend the extra $197 to go ahead and use Outlinematic. Actually, it's not even $197 because if you use, forgot to mention this, if you use a link in the description for Outlinematic, you get a 20% discount for that. So it's like $100 or $237. So at that point, it just makes more sense to go for that if you decide to take that optional route. Now, again, the box design is very important because it's what makes your product seem premium. Not only can you use it on the listing, like you can put the box on the listing, make it really pop, but it's also useful when a customer receives your product and they get a nice box. Think about when you buy, a brand new phone or whatever it is, a MacBook, and it's just a really pristine quality box. It really says, hey, you bought something that is important. You bought something that is up to the quality standards that you expected, right? So box design. And that's really it for the optional costs. There's a lot of other things that I didn't put in here because there's just no way that I can give you a real number on it. Things like PPC, you're now doing paid ads. Now that's totally up to you. That's kind of a cost that you got to figure out on your own, what you're willing to spend, what your profit margins are. It's useless for me to throw out a random number there because it could be anywhere from $100 to literally $10,000. So it just depends what your budget is, what you're willing to spend, how many units you ordered, what keywords you're bidding on, what product it is, how expensive the niche is. So yeah, so that's another thing. And then lastly, the last thing I'm going to cover for the optional is a course, a paid training program. Now, a paid training program can be anywhere from $397 to like $1997. Some go or more expensive. But it comes down to investing in yourself. A paid training program like the Empire Academy, which is my program in the description again, is what's gonna help you move through this process without making the mistakes, right? And we're gonna talk about that in a second here, but it's gonna make it so that it's seamless for you because there's a lot of things that, like again, I post so many videos on this channel, I try to share as much as I can, but there's just so much that having mentorship, really having access to me to help you out and going through it, or anyone, right? It doesn't have to be my course, any course in the world is gonna help you out. Now again, it comes down to, it is gonna be, you get what you pay for. So if there's courses out there that's $397, $497, there's a reason for that, right? Because whoever's selling that course, they don't wanna put too much time in it. And if you want something that is like a $397, $497 course value, click that link right over there. It's basically an entire course. I go A to Z. It's like an hour and 4 minutes long. Now I know that for some reason talking about courses on YouTube is super taboo, so I'm just gonna go forward now, but I'm gonna put this little example here for you. If I told you to get from like one side, like the west side of the States, all the way to the farthest east side of the States, and I told you have to get there. That's your goal. You gotta get there. You could walk. You could just walk there. It'll be free, but it would probably take you, I don't know, few months, right, to get from one side to the next. Or you could go ahead and invest in a plane ticket and get there way faster. And that's what a course is, expediting the process. It's making it easier, even though you could get there without one. Why would you want to do that? So now if we tally that up, we're looking at optional costs anywhere from $1197 to $2797, all right? Now, when we put these together, you're looking at between anywhere from like $3,000 to $5,000, right? So what I'm gonna do now is that since I gave you these ranges of things, I'm gonna tell you what I actually recommend you do, right? Between all these cheap and expensive, what are my recommendations? What is my ideal recommendation for someone that actually wants to get in here, get started, get off on the right foot? Okay, so first I would say for Viral Launch, get the pro version, okay? $85, and the reason I say that is because you get the keyword research tool with the Viral Launch Pro version. By the way, and if you haven't already, you can actually go ahead and get the free trial for Viral Launch. You can test it out, play around with it, see if it's something you want to get. And if you decide it is, I would definitely go for the Pro version. Next thing, your samples. Samples are samples, $150. Okay, your logo and box, I would go ahead and get the Outlinematic one. Again, like I said, it's gonna be $237, I think, with the discount. Then your inventory, probably around $1,500 if you get something mid-range, right? Your UPC code, I would go ahead and get the $5 resold ones. And actually, if you're gonna go ahead and get the resold ones, I would get a package of like, buy a pack of like 10 of them. It's like $12 to get 10 barcodes, okay? I would go that route. Again, risk tolerance, that's up to you. Then for shipping, you're probably looking at $500. Go ahead and get your $40 seller account right away, and then grab the Empire Academy in the description. And then with all those things added up, you're looking at about $3,500 all in to go and get your Amazon business going. Now I know for a lot of you that seems super duper expensive, super costly, right? And that is just, again, that's averages, right? So it can be cheaper, it can be more expensive. This is just a really good average for what I recommend and what I think the best ideas would be to go with when you're starting out. Now look, if that's too much, that's too much. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Some people think about Amazon FBA as this get rich quick, easy, because some people have told them they can start for $500. And that's just not the case. I'm here to be the no BS guy, to tell you straight in your face, if you can't afford to get into this business, don't get into this business, okay? Because it does cost money. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with just learning the process and then saving your money up, saving up capital, or using credit cards, right? Now again, risk tolerance, right? That's what I did. I'm not suggesting everyone should do that. I'm not suggesting that's a good idea. For some of you, it's probably a really bad idea to do that, but it's just an option, right? Now, if you really want to make this work for you, you're gonna make it work for you, but this is the cost, the barrier to entry. Now, I think it's actually a great thing that it's a higher barrier to entry. If you compare it to business models like affiliate marketing, or you compare it to Shopify dropshipping, where there's really not much money that you got to put out up front, that's a lot easier, which means there's a lot more people trying to do that. So there's a lot more clutter, a lot more noise. Whereas with Amazon FBA, you need a certain amount of money to get in. So there's a lot less of us, and those of us that get into it are more serious. And that's why there's such a huge success rate on Amazon FBA compared to other business models, right? 51% of sellers on Amazon, literally 51%, the majority of sellers make at least $100,000 per year or more, at least, right? So the majority of sellers are making at least 6 figures a year, which is just mind-blowingly insane. Okay, so now the most expensive things, what I actually didn't know when I started, and that is the most expensive thing, okay? So the biggest cost for me, again, I started for about $2,700 when I got in, I think something like that, okay? But my biggest costs were not these things. Were not these little expenses that I've talked about today. These were easy because those were things that I wrote them down, I knew what they were gonna be, I could kind of map it out and plan it in my head. But what I didn't know, what cost me the most was mistakes. The cost of mistakes, the cost of trial and error, right? This was actually the biggest cost. Since I've started Amazon FBA, I've lost about $8,000 total, okay? So I started with $2,700, which I thought was already a lot when I started, but I paid $8,000 in mistakes. I paid $8,000 in trial and error. And that's actually not uncommon for new sellers that don't know what they're doing to lose a couple grand because of things I just didn't know. And that's what I'm talking about when I told you about the price of a course, right? You're looking at joining a program and getting mentorship so you can skip the trial and error process. And I hear a lot of people say, I don't want to get a course. I'll go the free route and I'll just spend more time because I have more time to spend, and that way I can save money. That's not necessarily true, because opting out of a program, spending extra time to do it, and then you still miss steps, and then you actually spend extra money as well because of these losses, right? So going the free route, it's gonna take you more time and potentially take you more money as well, okay? That's just the cost of trial and error, and that's not an Amazon FBA thing, that's an everything thing, right? Everything in the world that you have to learn, if you have to go through trial and error, it's gonna be a harder process. You're gonna have a lot more road bumps and a lot more headache, right? That's why, as Otto von Bismarck once said, only fools learn from experience. I would rather profit from other people's experiences. And that's what a program is gonna do for you, right? So that's kind of the number one thing to consider. The next thing I want you to consider, a lot of people don't talk about when they're talking about starting an Amazon FBA business, is when you order your products, you budgeted for your first order, you budgeted for all these things. Did you budget for your second order, right? Did you actually figure out the time frame of how much do you need for your second order? How much money do you need for your second order? And when are you gonna need it? Because there's no use just placing a first order and depleting all your funds, and then all of a sudden you need a second order within a couple months, a couple weeks to replenish, and now you have no money, and all that work you put in to rank and kind of get out there and get your product going is lost, and now you're waiting to get paid again. Because don't forget that once you start making sales, it's gonna take 2 weeks until Amazon actually pays you back. So you can't just rely on the cash coming back from your first order to make your second order. You need to have a little bit of cash on hand for that. So make sure you consider that when you're looking at ordering your first product, okay? Now finally, the last cost, the one that actually is the most expensive cost, because at this point, you kind of understand it all, right? You understand how much it's gonna cost, the timing and everything, and you're either thinking, oh my gosh, $3,500, that's too much. I'm gonna look for a different business model, or $3,500, that's okay, right? So if you're in this camp of, is it too much? Is it worth it to actually start this? Should I save up? Should I wait? Should I, should I take out a loan? Should I use credit cards? I want you to consider this. So let's go back and look at the cost of starting, right? So let's say you go for the average of the required cost, which is like $22.58. And then you go ahead and you add in the cost of trial and error, which is $8,000, right? And that's 10 grand right there. And you now take away the trial and error because you went and you joined an academy, right? You joined a program. So you're basically looking at my recommended suggestions, right? So you're looking at $3,500. Okay, now you got to think to yourself, is it worth it for me to risk, you gotta understand that this is a risk still, is it worth it for me to risk $3,500 to start this business, or should I go away, right? Should I try something else? Is this just too much? Is it not worth my time? Is it too scary to do this, right? That's really what it is. It's if you're not gonna start, it's a fear. So now I want you to understand the biggest cost of this all. The biggest cost is not the cost of starting. The biggest cost is the cost of not starting. Okay, now stay with me here because I know I probably sound like some motivational Instagram post right now, but look at this, seriously. Okay, it takes you $3,500 to start this business. Now, like I told you already, the majority of sellers, right, 51% are making $100,000 or more every single year. $100,000 or more every single year. The majority, okay? So you have to be actually within the worst of the worst sellers to not make that amount, okay? Now, the average profit margin according to, what is it, Feed Advisor, I have it here. Yeah, the average profit margin according to Feed Advisor is about 30%. So let's say you're in the majority of sellers and you have an average profit margin. That means every year you're bringing in at least $30,000 profit. Not revenue, but profit. And that is just the averages, all right? So $30,000, if you don't start, is what you're risking not making. So to not start this business, if you follow a program and you're in the majority of sellers and you have a, average to below average even profit margin, you're looking at $30,000 every single year. And you compare that to the $3,500 it took to get started. So now you can kind of think, hey, can I get this money? If you don't have the $3,500, can you get the $3,500 to make $30,000, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. If I told you right now, hey, I'll trade you $30,000 for $3,000, everyone would be able to find that money. What they would do, they would dig hand and nail and cut off their arm or whatever it takes. Probably don't cut off your arm because that's a bad trade-off. But they would do what it takes to find the money to make it happen. That's what happened to me when I started. I started with a few $1,000s, right? And I realized, holy smokes, this business model actually works. I'm actually not 27, the 27 or whatever I started with was a lot, but I saw the light. I saw that, hey, I'm actually gonna be losing money if I don't get more products now, if I don't move quicker. So when I told you I went $50,000 into debt, what happened was I took out a $50,000 loan to go and invest into more products because I knew I could make it happen. And guess what happened? I did it, right? Because this is a model that is repeatable, it's predictable, and you're able to copy and formulate and keep on moving off of other people's successes, right? Just like all these students from the Empire Academy that have done the same thing. So how much does it cost to start Amazon FBA business? Anywhere between $22,000 to $5,000 if you're going the recommended route, and within the averages, you're probably looking at about $3,500 US to get started. But how much does it cost if you're able to avoid the trial and error, right? Things like picking a bad product, wasting money on PPC, running out of stock, failed giveaway launches, getting listings suspended. These are kind of some of the things that cost me money. If you're able to avoid that stuff, then you're cutting off a big chunk of the cost because you're able to avoid losing money on those things. So you're looking at $3,500, and then you're looking at the cost of not starting being around $30,000, and that's, again, I just want to say again, that's within the averages, okay? So it can be a lot more, it can be a lot less, and then if you are within a lot more, this $30,000 to not start, all of a sudden it becomes $50,000, $60,000, $300,000 to not start profit, just like some of, again, the students that I showed you earlier. So that's the true cost to start an Amazon FBA business, and more importantly, the true cost to not start it. So you can decide if this is the right business for you. And if it's not, it's not, and that's okay. And if it is, it is. And if it is, again, probably click this link right over here because that is a new video. And this one, if you want a free masterclass, click this link right now. And then I guess play bloopers or something after that, but my throat hurts like hell. Whoa, was that not recording the whole time? You're looking at 30, why did I clear it? I know I sound like probably some woozy floozy hippie, woozy floozy.